What's up and welcome to another YouTube video. My name is Eddie and I am still addicted to Marvel Snap, and last night we hit Infinite, everybody. We finally did it. I hit Infinite for the second time so far since I've played. I started playing the game on global release in October, and last month was my first time hitting Infinite, and we just hit it for the second time this month. And I figured I should do a video that's a little different from usual. This isn't my normal content, but I wanted to show you guys the decks that I use to get to Infinite. Now, I'm going to say this right off the bat. I'm not like the best player. I'm not a deck builder. I use decks that I find online and tweak them to my own preferences and stuff like that. But I do know that a lot of people that watch me on Twitch and who talk to me in my Discord often do ask to share each other's decks of which ones are working, not working. So I figured I should share with you guys here today on YouTube as well the ones that got me to Infinite. Now, as always, before I even get into it, let's talk super generic, general information that you probably heard all the other content creators say, and I could not agree more with them on the how to hit Infinite. The first thing is you got to know when to snap and when to retreat. That is the most important thing. Doesn't matter really which deck you play, as long as you're comfortable in understanding when it's time to retreat and when you're doing well to snap early or snap on time, everything like that. Those are the key things, I think, to hitting Infinite. That's the first one. The second thing that you guys need to know as well, outside of the deck, is you have to get comfortable with a deck. So just because you see someone play a specific deck, it doesn't mean it's going to work for you. But the other thing too is that you actually have to play a certain deck multiple times before you actually get comfortable with it. Most of the decks that I played here, I played for an hour or two just losing cubes with them because I wasn't playing properly, the timing of it all. And then with time, trial and error, you kind of understand, right, this card is supposed to be played at this time, this card is supposed to be played here on turn 5 or turn 6. Like, by playing the same deck over and over again, you'll get more comfortable with it, and that's going to help you win games in the long run as well. Now that's out of the way, let's actually talk about the decks. So I kind of divided my gameplay into 3 decks. I had one deck that took me from 70 to 80, another deck that took me from 80 to 90, and then a final deck that got me from 90 to Infinite. But again, like I said, just because he worked for me doesn't mean it's going to work for you. So please don't attack me on that. I just figured let's just share what was a winner for me. So from 70 to 80, I actually used an Electro ramp deck. So this is the deck that got me from 70 to 80. Basically, you've got Sunspot, to take up all the not used energy at the time. Lizard to get an early lead because he's such a low cost, high power, so he's there to give you priority for the remainder of the game. Electro and Wave to ramp the deck up. From there, you want to play, if you go into Electro, I normally like to go Electro on 3, Doc Ock on 4, and what I try to do is I try to use the Doc Ock, depending on the locations, obviously, once again, but in the right lane. So try and push them as far away on the right lane, and you'll understand why for the end here. You play Doc Ock in the right lane, and then depending on all the cards you pull, if you're already winning the location, fantastic. Don't do anything. Leave Doc Ock there. You can end up messing up a lot of the combos that they may have with Doc Ock. But the other option is, if your Doc Ock pulls all the card and you are losing and you cannot fight that lane, that's where Heimdall comes in. So you play Heimdall, and then you shift the Doc Ock out of that lane, and you focus on winning the left and middle lane and just let them win the right lane if you can't fight back on that. So that's a really good combo that I really do enjoy playing as well. That worked out really well for me. Another idea is obviously Magneto, so you can Doc Ock them into one lane and then Magneto them into a different lane to control the 2 locations. Shang-Chi is the counter there. I wouldn't say he's required. I think you do need one tech card, but you can replace Shang-Chi with Enchantress if you prefer canceling the ongoing instead of the high power, depending on what you feel like you're noticing you're facing off of against more. I prefer Shang-Chi, but if you guys want Enchantress, she does the same trick and she's the same cost, so she's another option. Giganto, so the other option is if you go into Wave instead of Electro, you want to go Wave on 3, Giganto on 4 if possible, so that way you can Taskmaster your Giganto, so now you have 14 power into different lanes. And then again, if you end up having priority thanks to that, you can either then play Magneto or She-Hulk or a mix of anything like that for the final turn. Devil Dino is also a really good card to have. I didn't often play him, so I would maybe say he's a really good card that you could end up replacing with like a Arnim Zola or even Arrow or something like that if you wanted to. I think the key cards for me in this deck are Sunspot, Lizard, Electro, and Wave, because that's the whole point of the ramp up. 8 tech cards, so it doesn't matter which one. It can be Shang-Chi or Enchantress. Taskmaster, if you have Giganto, I would keep Taskmaster, but you can, if you're going to replace one, you can replace both. Magneto's key to this one. Doc Ock is really important, in my opinion, to this deck. And Heimdall is a really fun surprise that not a lot of people see coming. So, I think he's required to, because no one ever sees it coming. I think most of the times when I want 8 cubes or 4 cubes, it's because they snap, not realizing that I'm just going to shift everything over. People see movement cards at the start and they expect Heimdall. They never expect a Heimdall if you don't have movement cards earlier in the game. So he's really fun for that. So that's the deck that got me from 70 to 80. Next up, we're going to talk about the deck that got me from 80 to 90. It's a very basic destroy deck. This is probably, you've seen everyone talk about this. It's back, a DeathWave. So you're going to go Hood, so you can end up getting the demon here. You've got Squirrel Girl, so you can get all the squirrels on the board just to get destroyed. You've got Yondu to ruin one of their card. Bucky, because once he gets destroyed, you get the Winter Soldier. Carnage, Venom, and Killmonger are to clean up your board. Then you've got Wave on turn 5, which lets you play a mix of I really liked having a mix of Shang-Chi once again. Arrow to control, She-Hulk, and Death. Now, I've seen 2 different ways of playing this deck, and they both work really well for me. If you destroy enough cards, the goal, I think, if I remember correctly, is that you want to destroy 4 cards. If you destroy 4 cards by turn 1, 2, and 3, your Death after the wave is free, and that's what your goal is. You have 2 options of how you want to pull this off. Option number 1 is you give yourself turns 1, 2, 3, and 4 to destroy your Hood, Squirrel Girls, use Yondu, and Bucky, and then you can destroy them using Carnage, Venom, and Killmonger. Turn 5, you play Wave by herself. You have to play turn 5 Wave by herself, because that means on turn 6, you had 2 cubes that you were not used, which makes your She-Hulk 2 cost, because of Wave she's 4, minus the 2 that you didn't use. So you have a 2 cost She-Hulk, you've got a 4 cost Arrow, so those 2 together are your 6 power, and if you destroyed enough cards, you have a free Death. So those are the 3 combos. That is one way to do it. Another way that I actually also really enjoyed is that if you play enough of these cards on turn 1, 2, and 3, if you pull off enough destruction by turn 1, 2, and 3, you skip turn 4. If you skip turn 4, you play Wave on 5 and She-Hulk on 5. The reason this one I think is a little better is because that almost guarantees you priority on turn 6, which is the key thing for this deck. If you play turn 5 She-Hulk with Wave, and you already had, let's say, a Killmonger, Venom, Carnage that got buffed up, and possibly a Winter Soldier, you're more likely to have priority for turn 6, which means that if you have priority thanks to the She-Hulk play on 5, you will be able to Arrow on 6 and keep control. And then that means your Arrow and Death, if you didn't destroy as many cards, you can still play your Death card. If you destroy just 2 cards or 3 cards, she's still going to cost less than 4, which means that Arrow and her will work together. And Arrow's going to actually do her job because you have priority thanks to the She-Hulk. This deck is really easy to play, in my opinion. Really simple, because you almost always know if you're going to win or not before turn 6 starts. Depending on the cards you have in your hand, you can snap early or you can retreat when you see things are going badly. If you don't have priority by the turn 6, get out of there. It's very rarely you're going to win if you don't have prio, because Arrow is the key one here. You're winning a bunch of lanes, and then you Arrow all of your opponent's final cards into the lanes that you were losing, and hopefully that gets you what you want. Again, it does not work, though, if you don't have priority, in my opinion. So that's the deck that got me from 70 to 80. The one thing as well, before I forget, I'm sorry, this is taking forever. Before Venom, I had Killmonger. I don't think there's a preference between the 2. They both work really well. So if you don't have Venom, because he is a pool 3 card, Killmonger does the trick. Deathlock does the trick as well. And I guess in the previous deck, I kind of realized there is a lot of Series 3 cards in here. I kind of talked about which ones are key. Let me know in the comments if you're missing other cards from the deck and you are wondering which cards can be replaced into whatever. I can help you guys with that as well in the comments below. super quick. I didn't use this deck myself, but I'm seeing a lot of people talk about it online, so I just wanted to mention up. Shuri. If you guys have Shuri, there's a bunch of Shuri combos here. For example, Shuri into Vision. You have a 14 power card that can move around. Shuri into Arrow. Shuri into Red Skull with Arnim Zola or Taskmaster. The Black Panther combo with Arnim Zola. This deck is wild. I haven't used this deck myself, so I don't have anything to say. I just know that a lot of my viewers on Twitch are talking about how this deck worked really well for them. I plan on trying it on my streams today and see how good it actually is, because I never actually got to. As you can see, my Shuri's grayed out and 0 boosters. I haven't used her a single time. Today is really going to be my first time giving her a shot, so I'm actually excited, but I know this is a good deck as well. But let's talk about the final deck now. I'm going to say it right now. This has a lot of Series 4 and Series 5 cards in it, so I know this deck doesn't work for a lot of people, but this is the one that really won me from 90 to 100. I'm pretty sure if I really wanted to, I could probably hit Infinite with the other 2 decks that we just talked about, but this is the Thanos Valkyrie deck. Now, super quick, I did not build this deck, same as the other 2. This is a viewer from Twitch who sent this over to me and told me that it was really good, and I gotta say, he wasn't wrong. This deck is something, guys. This is wild. Statistically speaking, I have the tracker while I play Marvel Snap. I think I ended with about in the span of like 50 games, I hit 100, like I hit Infinite, so like 100 cubes within 50 games and retreated twice or 3 times. Now, to be fair, this deck is really important to have Lockjaw in it, and I did play it during the Quantum Tunnel hot featured location, which was basically a Lockjaw. So you take the hot location away, this deck is still insanely good, but the buildup of the cubes would have been a little bit slower. So just so we're all on the same page about that. So this deck, the key cards in here are Thanos, because you want all the stones, and Valkyrie, because Valkyrie, no one sees her coming. So you've got Ant-Man in this deck, Quinjet, so you can make your Infinity Stones cheaper. Armor is there to protect your big cards. Lockjaw, so you can throw in all the stones to get all the on-reveal effects and then get them shifted out into all the other great cards. Mr. Fantastic, I don't understand why he was in this deck. Sorry, I didn't understand why he was in this deck. The viewer basically explained many times that he is a key component to it. I'm going to be honest, he didn't do much for me, but he is a pool 2 or pool 1 or pool 2 card, so you probably all have him. So if you have him, put him in the deck, but he didn't do much for me. Khazar is there to buff up the whole deck that you have. Blue Marvel, same idea. Devil Dino, because of all the stones with Thanos, you are getting a huge buff always to your Devil Dino, which is really key to keep with armor. Leech is a turd, so you need him in the deck. He always ruins everyone's cards and combos, so he's a really important card to have in there. Spectrum is the backup. If nothing else goes well, you have a bunch of ongoing cards. Oh, that makes sense. That's why Mr. Fantastic is there. He's an ongoing card. So Spectrum ends up giving a buff to all the other cards. Then Thanos himself, I actually don't play him often because he's a good card, but that's not the point of the deck. The deck is actually thanks to all the stones, and that's really what you're trying to use here to keep advantage. And then Valkyrie is the big combo at the end. Turn 6, I always like to play Valkyrie plus a stone, because Valkyrie will make all your cards 3. And then because of your Khazars and Blue Marvel, if their lane is full, they have 4 cards and we have 4 cards, we are all to 3, so his 4 cards end up being 12. Our cards are also 12, but because of Blue Marvel or Khazar, or even some of the stones, you end up getting an extra buff on top of that. That's where the winner is. That's where the 8 cubes come from. It's Valkyrie. Valkyrie is the 8 cube winner here. If you have the Time Stone, you can snap. If you have the Time Stone with Leech in your hand, you can snap early. Because what you do is you play the Time Stone on turn 3, which means that you can Leech on turn 4, and you ruin his hand earlier than instead of turn 5. The other option as well is that if you don't have Leech in your hand, but you've got the Lockjaw out, you have a chance of getting the Leech out early and ruining his hand as well, so you can snap whenever Leech comes in. Leech is absolutely the worst. Everyone hates him, and whenever I get Leech, I get really pissed. That's probably what most people feel as well. So it's really important that if you, with this deck, you want to snap early, because if you Leech and then snap, they'll retreat. You'll get the 1 cube, which is fine. But what you're trying to do is get those 2 or 4 or 8 cubes. So you want to Leech early, or if you don't do the Leech early, you want to snap before you play the Valkyrie. So you got to really make sure you keep track of everything, and if everything is working out for you, you hit the Valkyrie. And that's when you snap and you get those big cube winners. So that's the other deck. So those are 3 decks that got me to infinite. They are not the only decks that will get anyone to infinite. I see a lot of people playing MODOK right now and loving the discard combo. There are so many. You can see here, like I have 18 decks here, and I'd say probably 14 or 15 of them could get me to infinite, but those are the 3 that I used this month, and I will try and change it up every month and see if I can try other things. None of these 3 decks are the decks that got me to infinite last month. Last month I used the Silver Surfer, a Zabu deck, and a Mr. Negative deck. So I've now used 6 different decks to get me there, and I'd say all of those decks, maybe the Zabu deck is now that he got nerfed, but Mr. Negative is still just as good as he was before. If anything, he got some new cards, like Zabu works really well with him now. The Silver Surfer, even after his nerf, he's still great. If you're building a Silver Surfer deck, you're fine. He's a great card. There's a lot of things you can do here. I even found this meta counter deck, which is just like to counter all the things that are happening right now. That's also really good. Ongoing is still really strong right now. This is basic ongoing, like Ant-Man, Daredevil, Armor, Colossus, Rogue, Captain America, Cosmo, Warpath, sorry, Professor X, Claw, Spectrum, and Destroyer. This is the most basic ongoing deck you can think of, and this one's still very much a good deck. So, good luck to anyone who's not hit infinite yet. I will say, if you don't hit infinite, don't feel bad. It is part of the game, but I also think that the game should be about having fun. If you are feeling like you are just losing your mind with Marvel Snap, my biggest recommendation, I always say this to the chat as well, take a break. Take a break, take a day, take a couple hours, whatever it is that you feel like is a break from your time from Snap, and come back to it. I will sometimes go on this giant losing streak where like 2 or 3 hours, I feel like no matter what I do, no matter what I play, everything gets countered. I can't win any cubes. I feel like I'm always retreating. Just take a break. Turn the game off, go do something else, come back a couple hours later feeling a bit more refreshed, or a day or 2 later, feel refreshed, get back in, and make sure you're having fun. It's a video game. That's all that matters, is that you have fun. If you're not having fun, you got to take a break from it and come back. Yes, we want to hit infinite. We do all want that card back or whatever, but honestly, it's not the end of the world. Just have fun with the game. That's all. But I hope this helped you guys. As always, if you enjoyed this, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, comment below what you're working on, which decks you're using. I would love to try them. Now that I hit infinite, I'm going to be trying a bunch of different combo and decks, so make sure to join us on Twitch if you want to see other decks be played. And come over and tell me what decks you're playing so I can try them out and let you know what I think of them as well. Alrighty, everybody. That is the end of the video. Thank you guys. Have a good rest of your day. Have a good weekend. Take care. Bye-bye.